What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Reef Basics. So as you can see, my tank is cloudy, and there's a reason for this. I'm adding sand back to the tank. Now, as you guys do your water changes, you're going to realize that you're going to suck up some substrate as you go, depending on your sand. Now, if you have an Agrolite or a stiffer, thicker sand blend, it's not going to suck up as much. But a finer sand blend, you will start pulling it out of the tank. Now, there's a couple things you can do. You can do a really thick sand bed from the start and pull it down over time. You can do a thinner sand bed like I prefer and add back to it, or you can drain the tank down and add it in without making too much of a mess. But what if you don't want to drain your entire tank? How do you add sand without making a mess? Here's the trick. You pour your sand into a flat, thin Tupperware piece like this, or any flat, thin item you can. It doesn't have to be Tupperware, but it's just easy and it's cheap to throw out when using on fish tanks. But you get your sand like this, and what you can do is to not spread it all over your rock work and make a complete mess and get your coral and your rock completely covered in sand. As you do this, and then you can dump, and very minimal dusting. And then you can go back in and smooth it out as you want, whether it be a tool or by hand, and can smooth the sand back out. Now, the dust usually can be avoided if you rinse out your sand. But if you don't have reliable sources of RO or a large amount of RO to just waste rinsing sand out, or you're on well water or something that you know is clean, like city water that's going to have chlorine and fluorides in it, you're going to just kill your biofilter trying to rinse your sand out before you put it back in. So what I do is this method, and yes, you do get a bunch of junk, and if you guys want to see, when you look up here, this is basically the dust that comes out. It's just dust, and it clings to stuff, and it's a bit of a pain in the neck, and it's a little bit dirty. But if you have mechanical filtration, such as a filter sock or filter pads, they're going to suck it out. Now, normally when I do a water change, I change my filter sock. Now, usually I'm doing a 20 to 30 gallon water change the filter sock, but I'm going to fill this thing back up, crank the tank back up, let the pumps do their work and push all this in the overflows, and let the dirty filter sock catch this dust. Probably going to pull this thing out tomorrow once it's done getting all the junk out of my tank. So I'm probably looking at a couple hours where this tank gets cleared back enough to really see into it. It's kind of like starting a tank over again when you first add your sand to it, but you're doing it as your tank sits. And sometimes you will have to, pretty it up. There's certain tools you can use. This is actually a tool that a lot of freshwater tank keepers use to get their substrate into the positions they want. It has a broad spade and a small spade in, and this is really good for getting around rock work, smoothing the sand out, and it's a really good tool so you don't have to stick your hands in the back end of your tank, which is nice to have. But needless to say, that's a quick way to add sand as you deplete it, doing water changes without completely throwing sand over the entire tank and wrecking it. And it's just a good slow way of adding sand in. But as you guys have been watching videos and you've seen the channel, you know that I've been dealing with a nitrate spike in the tank. Now you can't see right now, but I'm actually bringing a lot of this back. The Bauer Banky that normally sits right here is doing good. It's starting to come back out. The leather is starting to get its coloration back, and my GSP is too. Now, we've talked about what to do with large amounts of nitrates because it's not as harmful as nitrite and ammonia, but what to do with it. And I've done consistent 20 to 30 gallon water changes every weekend, along with changing filter socks and filter materials such as charcoal, denitrify from Seachem, and putting those in there for a week or two, pulling them, putting fresh material in to pull the nitrates out. The reason I didn't do a huge water change and just drain the whole tank down almost and start over is because my chemistry in the tank is really good as far as my alkalinity, my magnesium, my calciums, all of those trace elements are in really good standing. So I didn't want to throw my chemistry off, upset the coral even more, and upset my fish population, because I'm kind of a reefer that enjoys both aspects of it. So I don't want to throw my fish off nor throw my coral off. But this is a way to, one, add sand in, and also keep the chemistry right when you're trying to get rid of a lot of nitrate in the tank. But just to show you guys, like I said, a cheap piece of Tupperware, and you can add it in, and you can really reduce the amount of junk that gets in. Now you can also use a large net if you want to come in here and kind of get some of the bigger clump stuff up, but generally let your filter sock, let your filter media do the work. If you have an AIO tank or an all-in-one tank, kind of like the Fluval N90, filter floss is also a really good thing to use. I usually put, in the girlfriend's tank, I did it the other night, and I put filter floss in the first chamber and let it suck up the additional mess. Then I'll just pull that out, dump it, and put in a fresh piece of filter floss in, because you can get a sheet, normally a 3 or 2 or a 3x1 sheet of filter floss for about $3. So you can cut that, dump it in. As it pulls out the junk, just keep throwing it, and it'll clean the water up. It usually takes a few days to polish it up, but it'll look good when you're done. And you've added sand without having to completely dismantle your tank, or dust everything in it with sand and then have to worry about sweeping it out of your coral and agitating the crap out of your whole tank. But hopefully this video will be helpful and you guys will learn a little bit from it, because that's the whole reason I do this, is just to help the beginners out, or people that are getting into the saltwater hobby who maybe have freshwater tanks. Like I say, guys, I want this to be good, informative stuff. So if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you like the channel, subscribe. If you got any questions or comments, put them down below. I try to respond within a day's time. So again, thanks guys.